on this Wednesday morning. Hey, how are you doing? Great to have you on once again on this
Yeah,
Wednesday.
I'm looking at that picture on the bottom left of your side. Is that you?
Yeah, that's me. Yeah,
Good one.
yeah. Yeah.
That's great. I love the background. It's you know what? It's
Awesome.
it's good to have. Just like in my case, right? I've got my late wife on one side and the stuff, and I just hey, it's always there. But anyway, yes, it's a great morning. I just came back from Dr. Joe Suderman, the chiropractor, who I go see every month to fix up some of my neck injuries that I had as a baseball umpire. I had a little bit too many whiplash. The ball on the mask. But anyway, it's agriculture. The snow, and I text you. We got more snow. We thought we'd get even more snow. But you drive down the streets, you drive down the side roads in the country, and there's snow all over the place. And that today, is just absolutely what a number of farmers have told me. That's gold. One farmer says it's white gold. The other farmer said it turns into gold. The moisture, right? So it's a good thing. So we're starting to shape up for the spring runoffs. We obviously can use more snow, more moisture, and we need lots of rain. Somebody mentioned that when there's runoff, this was I think in Alberta. Somebody said, "Well, you got all this snow," or maybe it was actually northwest Manitoba, and he says, "Well, a good chunk of it goes into Hudson's Bay." Well, I said, you know what? Right now, since 2020, I think that's been the last significant runoff that we had because we had no runoff from snow last spring. And so whatever we can get going forward is just a real bonus because we have the potato irrigation storages above ground that are mostly empty. And I had a chance to fly with my good friend Don Schellenberg earlier last year in August, and we flew over these storages, and they're empty, and they were supposed to be full of water, and so that's an issue. Rivers and streams and other on-farm dugouts, and of course Lake Minnewaska right here to the west of me at Morden, Manitoba. They are still in a situation where they're on restrictions as far as water usage is concerned. And, I've been on that lake in wintertime. You can go on it, but you can't drive on it because the drop from where the boat launch is about 4 feet. And so they just cannot chance the vehicles to go on there. So we need lots of good runoff moisture. So that's my first point for today. I'll take my breath and let you kick in.
Yeah, for sure, Harry. Always nice to take a breath, of course. I mean, we got to finish the rest of the report, right? So,
Yeah, right.
yeah, the snow. It's crazy how much of it fell. I haven't seen a snowfall like that in quite a while. I did a lot of shoveling yesterday, so that was a nice workout for me. But nice to see that we're getting this much snow and that the moisture is going to have a good effect on farmers. Talk about the positive effects, more in detail of what this runoff of the snow is going to have, from the snowfall that we've had at this point.
Well, the biggest thing is the runoff. The runoff is the filling the streams, and like last spring, I've mentioned him before, Mr. Paul Peters, who's already is closer to 90 than he is to 85, but he used to be a rural councillor in the municipality of Rhineland, and he farms he did farm. His boys now farm just east about 7-8 miles of Winkler. And so he keeps a track of moisture. And I know last year when I spoke with him in April, the middle of April of 2021, he said they'd had exactly 1/10 of an inch of moisture from January. And there was no runoff. We had some fall rains. We had some August rains. They all helped. So the key as far as runoff is concerned has to do with snow. The snow doesn't necessarily make your crop, but it does if it melts slowly. It can soak in, and the subsoil moisture in most parts of Manitoba is low. And the subsoil moisture is way down. So it helps to improve the subsoil moisture, but it right now is probably an attitude changer. You know, like I say, they refer to snow as gold because even with the cold temperatures, I love drive. This morning I did a short video I posted on Facebook. I'm just driving from my home to downtown Winkler, and I just, the trees are glistening, and the and the snow is all around us, and it just doesn't feel quite so cold as if we have bare trees and bare fields like we did last year. So that's really the positive. It's a big attitude changer for everyone concerned that's waiting for water and that's waiting to put in the crop this next year.
Yeah, for sure. And you text me every week to tell me what you want to focus on talking about on this show. And one other thing that you told me about, other than the snow, among the other things that you told me was the truckers. Talk about the situation going down there with the truckers regarding the borders.
Well, it's. I don't want to make this a political comment in either direction. I'm reporting this for your information, but I have a lot of trucker friends that were on the border 2 days ago. Getting to a slow crawl. I had a young fella visit me yesterday, Russ Peters from Winkler. He showed me a video, and what they're trying to do is that there's a mandate in the U.S. and a mandate in Canada that truckers without double vax cannot cross the border. That's the real issue. So, and a lot of the truckers, maybe 15-20%, are not vaccinated on both sides of the border. So they're trying to draw attention to governments and to industry and to people like you and me that if the truckers aren't driving, we're not going to get the product that we necessarily want. And so they have a slowdown, but there's a much bigger one coming on January 23rd that's starting in Vancouver and then Calgary and then Regina, and then it'll come to Winnipeg, and truckers, the way I'm told, will be joining as this procession is going all the way to Ottawa. So they want to block the streets of Ottawa. There will be people coming from the eastern part of Canada and from southern Ontario. And so all I'm doing is I'm reporting. I have told people I am double vaxxed, and that's because I wanted to. It was my choice. And at the same time, these people have chosen not to be vaxxed, and so they can't cross the border. So that means that we're going to see probably an interruption, not just because of the crawl, but we just don't have as many trucks crossing the border on a regular basis with product coming from wherever. So it's a real challenge for hog producers, for some grain producers, because so much product moves by truck. So any kind of interruption with the trucking, we're already in a situation where we got the supply chain, is challenged at places. And so at this point, that's all I really want to say about it. I'm not saying whether I'm for or against it. I'm just reporting why the truckers are doing what they're doing, and everybody can make up their own minds as to whether it's good or bad or indifferent.
Yeah, for sure. Crazy to see this happening at this point, with everything going on. So going to be interesting to see what's going to be happening with this situation as time goes on here, as the story develops. But talking about the inflation and COVID, you were saying yesterday that I feel it goes hand in hand. Talk about that, dive into that, the inflation and COVID.
Well, I think I touched maybe briefly on it last week. I'm not even sure now. But Brett Stewart from Preston, Idaho, a global agritrends. He's a co-founder of it. They've been in this business for 15 to 20 years. And I interviewed him because he spoke at the Banff pork seminar last week. And so I had a chance to visit with him, not in person, but on telephone. And right now, in the United States, number one, we've got inflation. Food prices have gone up 28 6.2% in the United States last year alone. And I'm sure we're following right behind. And I talked to a friend from Western Manitoba, wants to sell her farm home, and people are telling her to move into Brandon. Well, she says, I can't afford to. I don't know what I'm going to get for my house. And right now, inflation has upped the price of rent in the city of Brandon. So we've got inflation. That's the one point. And then he talks about the United States having inserted 6 trillion. That's trillion with a capital T, dollars into the U.S. economy. He says it's the biggest financial experiment the world has ever seen. And he says the textbooks 20 years from now, what will they say? It says, did it work? Was it wrong? Or whatever. But that's what's happening. And so that's what's causing the inflation. They increased the money supply in the United States just by taking it out of the air pretty well, printing money, doing whatever they have, and increased the money by 40% in 2 years. And he said that's unprecedented anywhere in the world. And so we've got inflation. That's the cause of the inflation. But what he said was because of COVID, that's why the government could do this with that kind of money. And so, and as a result of inflation, the money being put into the economy by government, $6 trillion, and then COVID, right now, the biggest challenge that businesses in the United States have, and especially the agricultural processing plants and so forth, is that they don't have people. Right now, there's 50% going begging of the jobs that are available in Canada, in the United States. And what Brett Stewart told me, he says the U.S. government is not allowing all the immigrants that are coming into Canada, into the United States, to take those jobs. He says they want to make a labor shortage, so companies have to pay more money in order to cover the inflation that is happening as a result of the $6 trillion that has gone into the economy. And he says if they can up the prices, then people will say, well, yeah, okay, now we can, we're at level, at par with what's going on. So COVID is causing, it allowed the government to put that money into the system. It caused inflation, and COVID is also causing a real labor shortage because governments on both sides of the border, Canada and the U.S., they paid people to stay at home. I mean, they had all kinds of, and so it was easier to stay at home and not work. And he says, you take a meat processing job, for example, $21 US an hour. Nobody wants to work for that. But he says you allow the immigrants to take those jobs. Absolutely, they would be there and they would do a good job, but the immigrants are not allowed to take those jobs. So that's the nuts and bolts of what Brett Stewart told me, and I found it very, very interesting.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing there, Harry. Very interesting indeed. What's happening with inflation, a cause of COVID-19 pandemic, of course. Crazy to see it happening in the States at this point. Finishing off with this, Harry, of course, on your weekly take on Siemens Says, on Harry Siemens' farming tip of the week for farmers, ending off today's edition of your segment here, the Farm Report. What do we got this week, Harry, on your farming tip of the week for farmers?
Well, I'll take a page out of Brett Stewart's recommendation. He said, this isn't going to be solved anytime soon. So if you're looking for someone to work on your farm, if you're looking for someone to work in the seed plant, looking for someone to work, if you have somebody that you can train and take and put him or her to work, do so. Because they're not going to be lining up as far as the jobs are concerned. And so my tip is, if you need labor on your farm, start looking. It may already be too late for this year, but start looking to make sure that you've got your jobs covered as much as possible.
Well, there it is. Harry Siemens Farm and Tip of the Week for Farmers on Siemens Says Here. Harry Siemens, farm journalist and podcaster, running the show here on this Wednesday morning. Harry, until next week on Wednesday when we do it again in an all new edition of the Farm Report. We'll see you then. But until then, you take care and continue staying safe. Eh?
Take care. Yeah.